Hey everyone, Ralph here. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to build your first checkout UI extension for Shopify. What we're going to end up with is this extension here that allows buyers to add a recommended product to cart. It is following this tutorial from Shopify that has all of the code needed, but whenever you build a checkout UI extension, you also need to have an app. So to do that, we're going to use gadget.dev, which is the fastest way to build Shopify apps, including checkout UI extensions. And if it wasn't for me talking, you would have this set up in maybe 10 to 15 minutes. All of the resources that we're going to use in this video are going to be linked below. So check them out, follow this video, and if in 25 minutes, you're going to have built this extension. Enough talking, let's get into it. So here's the checkout UI extension tutorial from Shopify that we're going to be using. I'll link to it down below together with all the other resources that is needed to do what we're doing here today. But it's worth remembering that when you create a checkout UI extension, for a merchant to be able to install it, you have to have an app, because merchants install the app and that app creates the checkout UI extension on their store. This tutorial doesn't explain how to do that, so we're going to be creating the app and then creating the extension and installing that on a store. And to do that, to create our app, we're going to use Gadget. So Gadget is by far the quickest way to create Shopify apps, including extensions. If you don't already have an account, it's free to start to sign up and use. I already have an account naturally because I work at Gadget. And once you've created your account, you can go ahead and go to gadget.new and we'll create our first project. The first thing that you're going to see here is that we want to select an application domain for our Gadget app. I'm going to call it Shopify UI Extension Demo. Then I'm just going to hit create here, and what this does is that it spins up a fully hosted app backend for us in the cloud. And then we're going to go ahead and click connect to Shopify here in a minute. But to make this video a little bit faster, what we're going to do is we're going to start building the Shopify CLI project as well, because that's going to run in the background. It'll take a minute or two, so we might as well get that started and have that ticking away while we're doing the rest. So open up a terminal where you can run commands. Go to the folder where you want to store your Shopify project. I have an extensions folder open, and what we're going to do here is we're going to type npm init at shopify/app at latest, and we'll kick that off and let that run. So this is the Shopify CLI that is required for us when we build checkout UI extensions. We got to name our project as well. So let's call that checkout upsell project. We want to use Node, and now the CLI here is going to start scaffolding our project. While that is going on, let's create our Shopify app here using Gadget. On the sort of home screen that you land on, you can select this connect to Shopify. And then we're going to be using this partners connection. Even though there's a CLI option here, don't use that. We're going to use this partners one. And then we're asked to provide the Shopify client ID and client secret. So we'll get those from the Shopify partners dashboard. If you don't already have a partners account, go ahead and create one. It's free. You go to shopify.com/partners. I have one, so I'm just going to go ahead and log into mine. And once you're logged in here, I'm going to go and select apps. And here we're going to select create app and create app manually. Then we're going to name the app something, and this is the name that is visible to merchants that install this app, and you can change it later. But let's call it checkout upsell. I think it's technically called pre-sell, but yeah. Once you've created that project right here, we have our client ID and our client secret. So we can go ahead and paste those into our Gadget app. And then we can hit connect. I don't want to save that. And what you're seeing in Gadget here is the screen where you can select what API scopes you want your Shopify app to have. And for us, we really don't need anyone. I'm just going to select products here to show you how this works. What I would suggest that you do is that you select the minimum amount of scopes that you need, because you're going to ask merchants to grant your app access to these. And the more scopes that you add, the more data you're going to add to your Shopify app backend and gadget. If you don't need the data, that's not necessary. So I'm just going to go ahead and select products. I'm going to select read. I'm just going to select this product one here. I don't need any of the other ones. We don't need it, and especially the event one that is very busy and would lead to a lot of data being sucked down to your app unnecessarily. If you're building public apps, there's a bunch of other resources that might be interested. You can check the docs to find out what those are. But the purpose of this demo here, I'm just going to hit confirm. What Gadget does is that it creates these Shopify models in our local database where we can store data, we can react to webhooks. We're not going to go through that in this tutorial because we're not going to need them. If you're curious, you can check some of the other tutorials that either I or Gadget have put out there. But for now, what we're getting here is this app URL and allowed redirection URL. We want to copy those and put those into our app in Shopify. So I copied this app URL right here. In app setup here, we can go ahead and paste those into here. So the app URL goes into the app URL, and then the allowed redirection URL goes into here. And then I'm going to select save. So now we've told Shopify that this app that we're building, it lives here on the internet. It's pointing to your unique gadget domain for your project. We can get back to overview here. And while we've been doing that, we can see that our Shopify CLI has completed. So what that has done is if we go into the, what did I name it? Checkout upsell. What we can see here is, and make it make it even clearer, is that Shopify has created a bunch of files and folders for us. This is sort of the boilerplate CLI project that they have created on our local machine here. One thing that we're going to do is that we're actually going to be removing the web folder. I'm going to be using Gadget for our front end. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to run rm-rf web. You can delete it in your in Finder if you're using Mac if you want. I'm just going to do it here. And then the next step that we're going to do is npm run dev to kick off this little server here. Complete the next few steps. And then Shopify is going to ask, okay, you're trying to create an app. Do you want to create it as a new app or do you want to use an existing app? We just created an app right here, so we want to use that. We don't need to create a new app. So I'm going to select no, connect it to an existing app. And then it can ask us which we want. Here's a bunch of different apps that I've built over the past several months. We want to use Checkout Upsell because the one that we've created right here, so what they're asking for makes sense. And then we want to select the store in which we're going to be developing our app on. I'm going to use this Catalina wine mixer, but something that I want to explicitly call out here is that if you don't already have a store, or even if you do have a store, it needs to be on the Checkout UI, I think it's called Checkout UI extension developer preview. So I'm just going to quickly show you without actually creating a store. You want to add a store, create a development store, and when you create that development store, you want to select this create a store to test and build. And then here you want to select a developer preview and do the checkout extensibility. If you do not do this, what we're going to do next in creating our Checkout UI extension will not work. So if you're uncertain if an existing development store that you have is has this option enabled, create a new one. You can't change it once you've created a store, so make sure to create a new one that has this option enabled. My Catalina wine mixer has that enabled, so I'm going to go ahead and select that and then let the Shopify CLI do its thing. And then we can go ahead and kill the server. And now we want to go ahead and create an extension, because the Shopify CLI creates a project for us. Now we want to tell it, hey, I want to build an extension on it. So what I'm going to do is npm run Shopify app generate extension. And because I'm currently having some issues with my with some dependencies, I'm gonna hit select force here. You don't have to do that. You should ideally just have to run npm run Shopify app generate extension. I'm gonna use the force function here just to get past those dependency issues that I currently have. And here Shopify CLI is asking, okay, what type of extension do you want to have in this app? We're going to be selecting our checkout UI extension because that's what we're trying to build. So I'm going to select that, hit enter, and then we can name the extension. This is different from the app name that we did previously because the app name is going to contain this extension. So we want to give the extension a name. So when we do the development, we can understand what extensions we're working with. And you can have several extensions on an app. So let's call this checkout UI pre-sell. Let's just name it that. And then what do you want to work in? I'm going to use JavaScript and React, and then it's going to be installing all of these dependencies. Amazing. Now it's done. So the last few steps that we want to take here is that we want to go ahead and install the app that we've created on our store, the Catalina wine mixer one. So here in Shopify, you can select a store to test it. I usually open it in a new tab because I might want to come back here. And then here you can see Catalina wine mixer, checkout extensibility preview enabled. Amazing. Install app, and because we're using Gadget, we get all of the OAuth flow and everything out of the box. So we haven't had to set up this. We haven't had to spend time figuring out how to do all of the sort of busy boilerplate work to get this to do. This is the screen. If you've ever developed an app or ever installed an app on a store, you recognize this. This is where we're asking the merchant to give us access to these products. Just gonna go ahead and click install app. And we're going to do the little auth dance between our app and Shopify, and then it is installed. So I'm currently on the front-end beta. So Gadget is rolling out an embedded React front-end out of the box for any Gadget project. If what you're seeing doesn't look like this, don't worry about it. It will still work. You can still build your checkout UI extension. This is ideally available in the next week or two, but if you don't see this and want to have access to the React frontend, reach out in our developer Discord. I'll leave a link in the video description. And this just allows you to build a fully functional Polaris React frontend as an embedded app in Shopify right out of the box with Gadget. We're not going to be using that in this tutorial, so let's just move on. We now have installed this app. What we want to do next is that we want to boot up our extension to run on our local machine here so we can see what it looks like in the checkout. And to do that, we're just going to do npm run dev. And meanwhile, while that is kicking off, I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to go over here to the online store section and just going to hit view online storings because the storefront that I have on my app is hidden behind a password. So if we try to just go from there, from this URL that we're given here, we would be asked for the password. So once the Shopify CLI npm run dev has completed, you get this preview URL. So this is essentially a URL that you can paste into your browser and access your checkout UI, and it's tunneling to your local host where we have these files that we've created. We're going to look at those files in a minute, but first Let's go ahead and open this URL in a browser. You can see we have this checkout UI pre-sale extension that we just created. And what we're going to do is that we're just going to click this right here, and it'll take us to the checkout where we'll see this preview. So here you have it. If you've gotten this far, you have actually created a checkout UI extension. This is the boilerplate that comes out of the box. It just says checkout UI pre-sale, which is the name, and welcome to this. Let's go ahead and edit that a little bit because we want it to look differently. So I got my VS Code here. You can use any editor that you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and open a folder of where we have the code, or sorry, the files that Shopify generated for us. So I'm just navigating to this folder. I'll open that, and what we're having here is just all of the files and folders that the CLI have created for us in the past few minutes. You can see that there's an extension folder here. I'm gonna open that, checkout UI pre-sale, and here we have a bunch of folders and files. I'm gonna open the source folder, and in it you see this index.jsx file. And this is essentially what is being rendered here. So if we want to change that, I'm just going to go into the file here and just remove this translate one. And then I'm just going to say hello world. And then I'm going to save. And because Shopify is using hot module reloading, we can see that the extension text changed. Now, what we set out to do, right, was that we wanted to create this extension. So let's do that, and it's pretty simple. I would suggest that you read through and understand step by step what they're doing, but just to be very quick here, I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of the files that they have and then just go ahead and try to render that. So we have the source dash index.jsx here, sorry, slash index.jsx. That's the one that is relevant for us. I'm going to replace my index.jsx with this, just copy, paste, and replace. And then we also want to go ahead and do let's see where they have it. Here. So another file that exists that you need to be aware of is the Shopify UI extension TOML file. So this is a configuration file that gives your extension access to meta fields or other things that might be needed for your extension to work as expected. So what we need to copy paste in here is these capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and copy paste that into here, remove the 3 dots here because we don't need it. And you can see there's a bunch of things that are commented here. Don't worry about it, you can leave it. But the important thing is that you add these capabilities and have API access equals to true. And that's because we want to be able to access the storefront API where we're gonna, the code is sort of fetching product information to show as the upsell or pre-sell. Now, if we go ahead and refresh this page after we've saved these two, we can see this doesn't actually show anything different. If we go ahead and show inspect here and open the console, nothing has changed. And also remember that I probably did not save. I copied the wrong code. Oh, my bad. I copied the wrong code previously. I want to go and the sample code here, source index.jsx is what has everything. You can see this one right here. So let's save that. And I'm sorry for the noise in the background. It sounds like someone is doing construction in this building. So what's happening now is that we see that we have these errors in the console here. It says API access denied. You got to use the extension is not allowed to use the storefront API. You got to do the capabilities. And well, we did that, right? We did add the capabilities to the extension TOML, but when we change this, we actually need to restart our extension. So I'm going to kill the server and rerun npm run dev. because we can make changes to the index.jsx, but when we change to toml, we have to restart the server. So now if we go ahead and copy this URL and open this up, we can see that we now have this upsell right here. It doesn't sit in the same place as in the Shopify example. We'll do change that in a minute, but you've now created an upsell checkout UI extension. So awesome work. Now imagine that, okay, it's running off your local machine here. You want to be able for merchants to install it. How do you do that? Well, what you want to do is, we've sort of confirmed that this is working. Amazing. Let's go ahead and kill the server, and then we're going to run npm run deploy. And that is going to deploy the extension, take it from your local machine and put it in Shopify, because UI extensions is hosted by Shopify. You use a backend. If you use an embedded front end, you got to host that somewhere. In my case, I'm using Gadget, but the UI extension itself, what you're seeing in the checkout, is hosted by Shopify. So do you want to deploy this to the same org and app as you used for dev? Yes, I want to do that. Make the following changes to your extension. Yes, I want to deploy to push changes. So that takes a second, and once that is done, if you go back to your app here in Shopify Partners, you go to extensions, you can now see that the checkout UI pre-sell exists here. It's currently in draft. It's type of checkout UI. So let's go ahead and click on that. And what you want to do is that you want to create a version. You can decide if you want to do a minor or major version. It doesn't really matter. You create a version and then you hit publish. And now it says, when you publish this version, it will be live to merchants. Amazing. That's exactly what we want. So now this has been published, and it's already installed on our Catalina wine mixer store. So maybe if we go ahead and refresh the checkout here, even though the server isn't running, we would expect this to be here because we published it, it's installed. But there's one important thing that you got to do. When a merchant installs this checkout UI extension, they actually have to enable it in their store. And to do that by going to online store here, and then in the section here, you hit customize. And then in the top here, you're going to select what page is it that we want to customize. Well, we want to customize checkout. And then the last bit at the very bottom here, there's an add app button. And here you can see our checkout UI pre-sell, checkout upsell. So just click that, and now it appears right here. So if we go ahead and click out of this, we can now see that it's right here. It has this little move thing that allows us to move it around because we have selected to do a dynamic upsell. And you can tell that by seeing sort of this. It allows us to move this around, or for merchants to move it around. So let's go ahead and just move that down here. And now it appears here. Magic. So if you save this now, go back to checkout, refresh, you're going to see that, oh, got to go to, let's remove one of these and go to checkout. And here you have it. We can go ahead and hit add, it works. And now you have taken what the Shopify tutorial has and added that. So just took a few minutes to create your Shopify app and create this pre-sell / upsell, depending on what you want to call it, checkout UI extension. Super simple. You can now emulate this by taking these steps and then changing for a different type of extension, change the code, change the logic of what products to use, etc. You've essentially created going from 0 to 1, and now it's going to be much more easy for you to go to 1 or whatever. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you. I think that now you've done this, it's going to be a lot easier for you to figure out what other types of extensions that you might want to build. I suggest you check out Shopify's tutorials and documentation for what other things that you can build. And if you have any ideas and you want another tutorial, feel free to reach out and ask. I might put something together. And also suggest that you check out gadget.dev because we're putting out more tutorial and documentation of how to build various types of Shopify apps and extensions. If you like this video, please subscribe, give it a like. It's super helpful for me as I'm trying to build more tutorials and videos and get them into the hands such as people as yourself. But I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope to see you in a future video. Thanks and bye.